Hey, this is Stephen Platinum, your friend in wrestling. I'm taking a look at chapter 15 of the Young Bucks book here, Killing the Business. Chapter 15 is called The Elite is Born, and it is by Matt. And so we're looking at 2014 right now. So we're honing in on the modern day quickly. And this chapter is great to highlight the transition that happens when they go from being, I don't know how to put this accurately. So if you've got the Bullet Club, the Bucks, while a core part of the group, clearly AJ Styles and Gallows and Anderson are set up as kind of the heavies of that group, the big timers. AJ Styles, while they didn't have a leader, was probably considered the biggest star, and Kenny Omega and the Bucks, not so much. I think they would allow that as well. So we're looking at 2004 ending, but Matt Hardy giving them his stamp of approval, and then winning the Wrestling Observer Tag Team of the Year award, which they would then win for the next 4 consecutive years as well. The Meltzer driver was a big deal. Fans and stuff were critiquing them. Oh, you're kissing up to Dave Meltzer, so they would just lean into it, which is a great move. Again, one of the things I love about this book is they let you know where the money is, and Nick and I were making close to 6 digits. A lot of people are signing with NXT, friends of theirs, and then they're offered a tryout by the WWE, which they decline, which, they go into all the critiques about that. And certainly I've had those kind of attitudes as well. I remember it was probably around this time that Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards with the Wolves were given a tryout. It might have been a little later than this. I'm not 100% sure. And, my advice to him was, don't you dream about being at WrestleMania? And his thing was not really. His life was already shifting. He was kind of looking for a life outside of wrestling. And so were the Bucks. And the Bucks knew that they could make really good money. Again, when you look at close to 6 figures, only generally WWE people made that. And so they were making it happen. And plus they had their merchandising thing. They had a lot of sources of income, but then they were also nervous, Matt especially, and rightfully so, right? What if the Bullet Club goes cold? What if this? What if that? What if I get hurt? Keep in mind, his hand had been hurt for 4 or 5 months, etc., etc. Dana, his wife, has a son, and the dad is super happy. Gives him $100 bill, which I thought was kind of a cool, fun, personal detail. And the daughter takes to being a big sister right away, which is cool. My kids get along incredibly well, to the point where you're almost waiting for the other shoe to drop now that they're 9 and 13, but so far so good. So Ring of Honor and New Japan is using them regularly. At Ring of Honor shows, they would represent the Bullet Club. They would team with AJ Styles usually. I certainly remember those matches. They were pretty phenomenal. And then Ring of Honor General Manager Greg Gilliland, are trying to get them into an exclusive contract. So basically, the long and short of it is they get all the writers that they want. Again, these are not the Bucks that were afraid to negotiate with TNA way back when. These are the guys that are we're going to keep our websites. We're going to keep selling merch on our own. We're going to do PWG, even though they are also in America. And we're going to keep our New Japan thing. And we want guaranteed money, basically ensuring they maintain the same income they do, because they're sacrificing the other indie dates that they would get. Ring of Honor agrees. To me, this was an amazing moment in the book, and an amazing moment, and something that wrestlers need to read and listen to. They knew their worth, right, which they had learned earlier from guys like Brian Kendrick and things like that. They knew their worth. And this part was really great. So Matt and his family go to Red Robin, eating cheeseburgers, and he goes, "I'm finally really doing it. I thought to myself, looking proudly at my family who was eating food purchased solely from my wrestling." Super great. This paragraph, which I highlighted because it seemed very important to me. The worries of getting hurt during a match and not being able to provide were now over. So many wrestlers talk about their favorite moments, and they usually involve winning a championship belt. Forget that. This was the moment I feel like I finally made it. This didn't make Dana slow down, not in the least, with my new free time, because he got to tell her, like, you don't have to go back to your job. You don't have to work anymore. I'm going to treat our online store like it's a full-time job now. It's successful right now, but I want to make it huge. So they rebrand to youngbucksmerch.com and start selling all kinds of stuff. And the two of them are in this together, folding shirts till late in the night and waking each other up. And like, I got this new idea. I imagine that's just incredibly exciting and a lot of fun. So the Bullet Club group text chat had gone silent, and they were sort of split up into two groups, right? The AJ Styles, Carl Anderson, and Luke Gallows. Something is up. And sure enough, you know, they're talking about going over to TNA wrestling. So now we're placing us in time. We're on December 18th, 2015. So we're about a year from the beginning of the chapter. And AJ comes up to Nick and Matt about speaking to them in private. And he wants to talk to them about WWE. So late that night, Nick and Matt meet with AJ, Christopher Daniels, and Frankie Kazarian. Daniels and Kazarian, all you hear is good things, right? And Triple H talked to AJ. And TNA promised the world to AJ, and he worked for them for years and thinks he could trust them. But Christopher Daniels, who had a horrible experience at TNA, just goes, how can you trust them? Right? That coupled with Matt, Nick, and Kazarian basically making the hard sell for WWE. I mean, like, you'd be able to provide for your family. It's a perfect way to cap off your career. It's the only thing you haven't done, etc., etc., etc. But they still felt like he was going to go to TNA because it was the safer choice. So Wrestle Kingdom is going to happen, and it's the one time a year that everyone was encouraged to bring family and friends. So he brings his family, and they get to see Japan. Again, this is a part that really hit me in the heart, because I can't wait to take my kids to Japan. I just can't. Yeah. And a little funny story about Courtney, the daughter, holding up the Too Sweet sign and smiling for fans and photographs, and them sending them animals, stuffed animals and games and candy and all that stuff that the Japanese do. It's really wonderful. So they're in the bus, headed to a press conference for Wrestle Kingdom at the Tokyo Dome. And Carl Anderson gets close and says, we need to talk, we're making a move. And they're going to Dixieland. The TNA, Dixie Carter, no, the other place. They want AJ and they want us too. So Matt finds Nick and Kenny and tells them what's going on. And then he hears Anderson and Gallows speaking to Geto, the booker, and Tiger Hattori about them leaving, and that AJ is going to talk to them and he's leaving too. And of course they're just gut shot. And then Shinsuke Nakamura is going to leave as well. And that's, basically ripping out a big chunk of the New Japan roster. And of course they tell Kenny Omega, meaning Geto, that Kenny's being moved up. In other words, he's going to be put to an important spot on the card. So Wrestle Kingdom happens, and then New Year's Dash is sort of the resetting of angles and things like that. Think of it as the Raw after WrestleMania, right? So at this point, AJ is leaving, and so they have Kenny attack AJ, hits him with his move. And then Gallows and Anderson are there. The rest of the Bullet Club show up. They look like they're going to punish Kenny, but instead they turn on AJ. So they leave them all in the dust and leave. And then this part is super important, right? We all exited the ring and started heading towards the stairway to the locker room. Kenny stood close to Nick and whispered under his breath, "Ask Matt if we should go back into the ring." I overheard. Before Nick even said anything, I shouted, yes. The three of us slid into the ring where AJ still lay. The rest of the Bullet Club had gone backstage. Should I give him Styles Clash and you guys do a double super kick to him? Kenny asked. Styles Clash was AJ's finishing move where he holds his opponent upside down and drops him on his face. It would be like adding insult to injury from a storyline perspective, but it was also something we hadn't discussed with AJ beforehand. Yes, I excitedly shouted again. Wham! Kenny planted AJ in his face with his own move to a chorus of boos. Kenny, knowing the importance of photographs in Japan, told us to strike a pose. One great picture. How many times have I talked in my videos about fucking pictures? One great picture could end up on the cover or in the pages of the weekly wrestling magazine. In Japan, that was everything. Yeah. Nick and I threw up our Young Bucks pose while Kenny used AJ's trademark pose in mocking fashion. The three of us stood tall. Yes, we had gone into business for ourselves without asking anyone for permission, including Gedo. But we knew, given the talent departures, we were in a situation where we needed to act quickly to survive. It was a time for a new era of Bullet Club, and we didn't want to be considered the leftovers of the former. As soon as I left the ring and arrived backstage, I tweeted a fan photo of the three of us posing with a caption that read, "The Elite of the Bullet Club." At that moment, the Elite was officially added to the annals of wrestling history. Next chapter being The Elite by Nick. Amazing stuff. The book continues to impress, every chapter better than the last, and this one is no exception. Really phenomenal. I'm going to see you tomorrow. I'm excited to get this headlong train trip with you to the end of the book. And if you haven't gotten it yet, motherfucker, catch up.